Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. My name is Chris, and I am here with a spontaneous Newcastle United related podcast and video for you lot. So we all know it's been a bit of a chaotic 72 hours in the world of Newcastle United. We have seen players leave for astronomical fees, what people are claiming, and we have seen a couple of players arrive on Tyneside. Some players which I'm guessing has shocked most people. We all knew going in this season that goalkeeping situation would need to be addressed. There was a lot of fans out there thinking Martin Dubravka wasn't up to it after he got brought in to be Newcastle United's number one to replace Nick Pope after his injury. Dubravka didn't have the best of times. Personally, I've always been quite a big fan of Dubravka. I don't really think he's done much wrong since obviously putting a Newcastle United shirt on all those years back. But I can see why frustration started creeping in for a lot of fans. But we all expected Dubravka to move on in this upcoming transfer window. He wants first team football. Obviously, he's not guaranteed that unless Nick Pope has an issue with his shoulder injury, but we'll touch on that later on. We all knew goalkeepers were probably top of Eddie Howe's priority list. Arguably, obviously, we can look at that right-hand side and that right wing as well and argue that may be the case too. But we knew goalkeeping situation needed to be addressed and fixed. We weren't expecting this, far from it. So we have been linked with, first of all, James Trafford. I know Aaron Ramsdale's name was linked earlier on towards the end of the season, but James Trafford was one that rumours just wouldn't shift. £20 million Burnley wanted for him, and Newcastle United did put in a bid, apparently, which got rejected. I think that was around about the £15-16 million mark. And everybody's thinking, right, we'll eventually get James Trafford, and he will come in as that replacement for Martin Dubravka. Nick Pope keeps his spot. Trafford come in, and that's competition for Pope. We weren't expecting what happens next. But on the back of that as well, I think everybody was excited over the links with Marmadashvilli, who plays for Valencia. Obviously, he's had a fantastic had a fantastic tournament at the Euros, and probably up there with the goalkeeper of the tournament, despite obviously being knocked out now by Spain. Spain were fantastic that game, but Georgia put everything into it. And some of the saves he pulled off in that tournament were unbelievable. And he kept Georgia in a lot of games. And his ability to command his area and run off his line was something which we never really saw with Dubravka. And arguably, we saw it with Pope at times, but not to the best of what we can see with Marmadashvilli. Since he's had a bloody amazing season. I keep saying season. It's not season, it's tournament. So since he did have a great season as well for Valencia as well. But since that tournament in the Euros, his price tag's probably gone up that little bit more. And it's probably caught the attention of a lot more football clubs. I know he does have a release clause. I'm not sure what that is exactly. I think it's around about the £40 million mark or €40 million mark. So there will be a lot more clubs interested in him. But the way which Newcastle have gone now and the path that we've seen to go down kind of makes you think maybe that first choice goalkeeper isn't what we're necessarily after. And Nick Pope is pretty comfortable in his number one spot. So the news came out, and it was just after Ellie Anderson moved across to Nottingham Forest for a whopping 35 million. And we signed, I'm going to probably butcher this name, but I'm going to go with Vlachodimos, who struggled to get in the Nottingham Forest side. His goalkeeping ability has been questioned by some Forest fans, but then if you look just before that and his career leading up to that, he was great for both Benfica and his national side, Greece, and he came. I think he made the quarterfinals of Champions League knockout stages as well, and at one point, he had a £60 million release clause in his contract at Benfica, and there was a lot of other clubs circling around him. Man United for one of them. That we've been rumored to be interested in him for a number of years now. He has signed. He came through the door. Apparently, that rumored fee is around about 7-8 million. Later end of the 7 million, apparently. So we don't necessarily know that for fact, but that's what the news is coming out as. I think he made 7 appearances for us last season, and Matt Sells was getting game time ahead of him, which Newcastle United fans, I know Matt Sells came here and he struggled to put it politely. He was shocking at times, but he did look a lot better for us, so give him the credit there, and rightly so, kept Vlachodimos out of the team. Looking at what's being said about this signing. I think we were all under the impression when that got announced that he would probably be replacing Karius. Karius has obviously left the football club now. So you just think natural replacement for him. So it goes Nick Pope, Dubravka, then Vlachodimos. Then something even weirder happened, just not so long after it. So Newcastle announced the signing of John Ruddy. So John Ruddy, a 37-year-old keeper, and he was offered a new contract from Birmingham. Birmingham got relegated in League One, but Birmingham, once again, they are building for a team to obviously a championship team, despite being in that league, to push on. But he decided not to go with that offer. He attracted a lot of interest from a number of championship clubs as well. But he's opted to go to Newcastle United. When that news broke up, I was quite baffled by that decision because, like I've just said, you think of Vlachodimos has come in to replace Karius. So then what happens with John Ruddy? Then what happens with Mark Gillespie? He's probably eighth choice goalkeeper at this point. We've got 5 goalkeepers on the ranks as we put this one out. It's 5 goalkeepers we have on our books at this moment, which is chaotic at best of times. But John Ruddy comes in, and I think the best way to look at this is what Eddie Howe tries to build in the dressing room, and he comes in as a free transfer. So take that with a pinch of salt and put that into the equation as well. Is he coming here to push for first choice and to be on the starting 11? Probably not. Despite everything which we hear and how much of a professional John Ruddy is, which I agree with. Okay, you do need that to a certain aspect within every single football club, and Eddie Howe is quite admirer of that when it comes to players that work hard behind the scenes. He's mentioned it a few times with Matt Ritchie, Paul Dummett, and even Jamal Lascelles at times when he wasn't getting game time before his injury. He started mentioning that these characters behind the scene are just as important to the lads that are on the field and on the subs bench and getting game time. So I think we'll have to look at that John Ruddy sign and think that's what it is. Like I mentioned, he is 37-year-old now. He played, I think it was over 80 games for Birmingham over the last couple of seasons there now, being ever present in goal. And it's probably, well, I'm saying probably, we'll know for fine, well, that's going to be a big drop off for Ruddy as well, going from that starting keeper to Newcastle United to not really getting a sniff at anything. I think he's probably going to be lucky to find his name on the team sheet at this moment in time. If let's say for some reason we name 3 goalkeepers on the bench, sorry, in the match day squad, 2 on the bench, then Ruddy might add a push B in that, depending on what happens with the Dubravka situation. But I think Ruddy's probably looked at this and thought that this is probably his step into the coaching side of his football career. And Eddie Howe came out and said that John Ruddy has a huge amount of experience, which, yes, he does, a strong mentality and attributes as a leader. It just goes back to what we're saying. He's been brought in to, it seems really harsh to say fill a void, because it's not that. It's really a tough situation to think about and try and put yourself in that situation. But I think you just have to look at Matt Ritchie, really, what was happening with Matt Ritchie. I know I've just mentioned his name, but he was ever present behind the scenes, and every single opportunity Eddie Howe got, he praised Matt Ritchie and how well he trained and what he did for the match day squad behind the scenes. You're probably expecting the same with Ruddy. And you know what is trusting Eddie Howe. I think as the days gone by, and obviously it was a couple of days ago now that these 2 announcements were made, I'm okay with those decisions. I think it's quite wise. It just makes you go back to just a few weeks back when we were linked with somebody to challenge Nick Pope. I think we've lost that now. I think if you look at the goalkeeping situation right now, let's say if Dubravka is sold and we don't bring anybody else in, okay, so Vlachodimos naturally goes as your number 2, Ruddy probably number 3, Gillespie 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever Gillespie is these days. Best job in the world, by the way. But you're probably thinking we're maybe worse off than what we were last season. Arguably, that's personal opinion. You might disagree with us. Let us know if you do. If you think if Dubravka was sold, if our 3 keepers were now Nick Pope, Vlachodimos, and John Ruddy, is that stronger than Nick Pope, Dubravka, and Karius? probably. I'm trying to convince myself now, but it's probably very similar. But probably last season was at a push, probably better on paper. That's speaking to somebody that doesn't have much knowledge about Vlachodimos. Like, would have such a small sample that we can rely that on from last season. So we're going off what happened in previous years, and like I said earlier, huge talent, respected across the football goalkeeping community. So we don't know yet. Will we get a chance to see him next season? God knows. So going back to Dubravka has to leave this football club. Dubravka has stated that he wants first team football, and he was lucky to get that last season with the injury to the shoulder injury, which Nick Pope picked up. So Dubravka has to go. You'd be very shocked if we got to the end of this transfer window and Dubravka hasn't left. Like I said, he wants first team football, and a lot of clubs overseas have been getting the attention of Dubravka. So we'll see what happens with that one. But then it makes us go back to Nick Pope and Nick Pope's situation at Newcastle. He had that horrible injury last season, and Eddie Howe just put it off, bringing him back into the starting 11, and rightly so. There's nothing wrong with that, because you don't want to flare up that injury. You don't want to do that again with obviously such a crucial part of that Newcastle United squad over the seasons, and how much we missed him the season before when Dubravka came in, and what happened with the defense. I know there's loads of issues that you can throw into that, but I think Nick Pope was that person that basically strengthened that defensive back line. They were very confident in him. He would come off his line. He command that area so well. But we don't know how he's going to recover from this shoulder injury. Everything might be rosy. Everything might be fine. Rainbows. And honestly, fantastic. And hopefully so. But what if, as a Newcastle fan, we always have a what if. What if something happens? What if he doesn't return to the player that he was? What if he doesn't have that confidence? What if he doesn't have that confidence in his shoulder now when he's making these crucial saves? If he picks up another injury, or if he's just not up to it, because like I said, the confidence issues, Vlachodimos comes in. Yes, he might be great, might be, but we don't know that just yet. We don't. Is there a possibility that Dubravka may also be sold? There has been rumours that Ipswich Town have been interested in Nick Pope, and if they can get the funds together, could that be an option? Nick Pope, now 32 years old. His time at Newcastle United, is he going to be first choice keeper next season and the season after that? I don't think so. Okay, I might be wrong, but I don't think so. I thought Newcastle United would have brought in a keeper this season of the quality of Marmadashvilli, who would replace Nick Pope in the longevity, in the long run. Okay, obviously that hasn't happened at this moment in time. But is that still an option? Can Dubravka still be sold? And will Newcastle United look at bringing in Marmadashvilli or James Trafford? That's the question which I think is on my mind at the moment. And you've seen it across social media as well. A lot of fans asking the same question. Are we strong enough as a goalkeeping force right now? I don't know. I really don't. I think the proof will be in the pudding. And if these two new goalkeepers that have came to the football club get their chance, then they might prove me wrong. They might do. Okay. Like I said, at the start of this, looking back and looking at previous comments, it's quite split between Vlachodimos, between Forest fans, Benfica fans, and rightly so. Okay. But like I said, it's such a small sample that we'll have from the Forest fans. I still think that this chapter in Newcastle United's recruitment hasn't been closed. I think there's something lurking around the corner, and if it is Marmadashvilli after that successful season he had last year at Valencia, and the tournament that he's had with Georgia, then I am chuffed a bit that we are looking at this sort of sign, and that could be a sign that could be Newcastle United goalkeeper for the next 5-6 years. Okay. Trafford could be another one. Trafford, like I said, I'll start before Trafford will come in and push Nick Pope. That looks dead for me now. Like, I think if Trafford comes in as your first choice keeper to replace Nick Pope, then I think everybody would be a bit on the fence with that one. Okay, it's not the worst of signings, of course not, but I think everybody would be on the fence. But let's see what happens over the next few weeks. I think now that, like I said, this chapter has been not closed, but just slightly put to one side. Just mark it. Just mark it. We'll have put a little fold in the corner. We'll come back to that one in a bit as Newcastle United now put their attention towards elsewhere on the field. Now, this is where the transfers happen. We've managed to, I'm saying managed, we've sold Elliot Anderson. Mintier has also gone to Brighton as well. A good chunk of 70 million quid there in Newcastle United's back pockets. And I was going to try and go this full recording without saying PSR, but here I am. PSR looks like that's all been ticked off. We hope. So that's all been ticked off. And Newcastle United can now look at the future and who we can bring in to bolster that first team squad. That starting 11. That's where we now need to look at. We need to bring in these players, like I mentioned at the very start, that right-hand wing. We need somebody there. Okay. Left-hand wing's fine. We've got Bonds, we've got Gordon. Fine. Right-hand side, I think that's where we need to look at. Centre midfield, I think recruitment-wise there, they'll probably not need to look at that. Looks like Bruno's sticking by, which is fantastic news. Obviously, you've got Joe Linton, and you've got Tonali as well, who are probably going to be your three starting centre midfield players. Defence, still unsure about defence. I think Newcastle probably will dip the toes in the water a little bit more with defence as well. But yeah, let us know what you think. Let us know if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about the current goalkeeping situation at Newcastle United. Are you happy with the two goalkeepers that we have brought in? Are you on the fence? Or are you thinking, well, a bit last season when it comes to goalkeepers on paper? Let me know. Don't forget to like this video if you have liked it. Okay, even if you haven't liked it, just like it. It means a lot to us. And become a subscriber. It costs you absolutely nothing to do that. If you do want to give an extra bit back, it is just $2.99 a month to become a member of the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. You do get extra podcasts. You do get access to the Telegram group as well, which has around about 200 people like mine and Newcastle United fans in there chatting all things from Newcastle United to whatever you fancy. They talk about everything in there. So sign up. Like I said, it's $2.99 a month. It helps us out massively. Helps us out with the upkeep of this studio as well. I've been Chris. I'll see you next time. What should we do?